right. Hour number 2, we have Max Igan, the man, the myth, the legend, a dear friend of ours for many, many years now. I mean, we first met Max 7 years ago. And it's funny how some of your closest friends you may have never met in your life, but that's the beauty of the technology that we have. And as I said during the first hour, technology can be used for good or evil purposes. It's not the technology in and of itself that is bad. It's the consciousness of humanity and the mindset of the people utilizing this technology. But 5G is about to be released, AI, and much, much more. So we're really getting to a time now that things are changing, and they're changing significantly and swiftly. And we have to change with them. Can we change with them? Are we changing with them? Those are a lot of questions that I want to go over with Max during this next hour, or maybe 2 hours. I don't know. I don't know if he promised us an hour or two. We'll see how it goes. But Max Igan, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good, Chris. Thanks for having me on, brother. Nice to come and talk to you again.
Excellent. It has been a while since we've touched bases. What's been going on in the world of Max Igan?
Oh, man, I've been all over the place. I've been speaking everywhere, all around the world. I've been bouncing around all over the place. I'm in LA at the moment, which is good. A bit warm, but it's good. But lots going on. I found a free energy device in London that I checked out a couple of months ago. I've been really looking into this whole 5G thing, into the whole AI thing, just sort of observing as I travel what's going on overseas, how this cashless grid's being rolled out. You know, slowly but surely they're rolling it out everywhere. And yeah, it's been interesting, but a very, very interesting year. Very full so far.
Don't talk to me about the cashless grid, please, because I just had a conversation yesterday with a friend of mine about Bitcoin, and I had the chance to buy into it when it was about $3 a piece. And he calculated it for me. It's the first time I actually calculated. He said, look, if you would have spent $1,000 on Bitcoin back then, that would be worth $750,000 right now. And I've been kicking myself ever since. But, you know, I saw that digital currency, Bitcoin, and I thought to myself, this is what we've been warned about, Bitcoin, or at least this is the first incarnation of it. What do you think about that? Is Bitcoin something in disguise? I mean, is it the digital currency, or is it really something that's completely outside of the system?
Well, look, it's outside of the system for the moment, but it depends on where the system goes as to how long it remains outside the system is the problem. You know, like they're introducing stuff in Switzerland now. They're trialing microchips in Switzerland, seeing who wants to get one, you know. They've been trying to roll them out everywhere. They tried it in Australia. They're still trying it in Australia. But they're trying it in Switzerland now as well. And one of the things that they're using to try to sell this microchip to people is that you can also use it to open Bitcoin wallets. I thought that was an interesting little thing for them to put on their ads. So who knows, you know. But when you look at the system, Chris, the problem is that, you know, we anthropomorphize everything we look at. When we look at this whole control grid, we look at the New World Order, we imagine it's people sitting around a table that have evil plans, you know. And sure, there's people that have a lot of evil plans, but, you know, behind that is the mechanism itself. It's the system itself, and that's really the problem. Nobody's really noticing the tech that we're using, this whole smart grid that's being rolled out, the 5G grid that's being rolled out, all of the conveniences that we've been given in our life to help us out. This is the New World Order. This is the control grid itself, the digital system. And it doesn't matter who you replace, doesn't matter. You know, you could have a revolution today and overthrow the government and replace it with Chris and Sheree Geo. And you could have all the best plans in the world. But if we're still using this tech and we're still moving towards a system which is becoming fully autonomic and fully self-regulating and self-correcting and self-programming, then we're going to end up in the same boat. You know, the system itself is the problem. And there's a plan that came out, I think, last year called Federal Visions for Future Computing and the Grand Technology and the Nanotechnology Grand Challenge. And they talk about handing the whole system over to AI. They've got a 15-year rollout that they're doing. They want to hand the whole thing over to AI within 15 years. So and that's the problem. That's really the system. That's really the New World Order. Because once it's all digitized and all your money is digitized, it won't matter if it's Bitcoin or what it is. It doesn't matter when you walk through a checkout or you walk through a turnstile or whatever. It'll be taken out of whatever it is. Doesn't matter. As long as it's digital, they don't really care. Whether it's Bitcoin or whether it's the Westpac Bank, they don't really care what it is. I don't think. And Bitcoin may be unregulated for now, But once it becomes just another form of digital currency and the whole system becomes digital, then it doesn't really matter. And they're bringing in all sorts of regulations now with Bitcoin. They're trying to bring in a new law that says, I mean, there's a law you can't cross a border with over $10,000. You've seen this when you're going traveling, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, now they're saying that if you've got more than $10,000 in your Bitcoin account, because you can access that all around the world, that is traveling across a border with more than $10,000. So you have to declare it in your Bitcoin account.
That's insane.
This is Congress is talking about this now, whether they passed it or not. They were talking about it a couple of weeks ago. You'll find an old headline somewhere on my website if you look in the recent headlines. You'll find it there just in the last couple of weeks. So if they were to do that, imagine if you've got $100,000 in Bitcoin and you get taxed on that as you go across every border that you go across. Eventually, they're going to take your whole savings off you anyway. So,
Somebody asked, how do you cash out Bitcoin? And from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, Max, but there's these exchange sites out there where you say, okay, I've got 10 Bitcoin that I want to sell, or that I want to cash out for cash. So you put them on these websites and you agree to sell them for 10%, 20%, sometimes 30% lower than the actual value is. And then you wait for a buyer to come in and buy them from you. And then you get the buyer's cash and they get the Bitcoin. And then the escrow company, the people that actually do the exchange, get a cut of it as well. So you don't really get dollar for dollar when it comes to Bitcoin.
Right.
You always get like a 10 or 20% loss anytime you try to cash it out. Am I correct in that?
That's if you want to sell your Bitcoins online like that. You can actually go to a Bitcoin ATM and you can scan your account and you can scan it back into the machine and you can pull dollars and cents out of the machine.
I did not know that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah,
No.
I was talking to them about it in someone when I was in Spain. They're going, what, there's Bitcoin ATMs? And I said, yeah, I'm sure there's some in Spain. And I Googled it for them. It said Bitcoin ATMs, and there's something like 600 of them in Spain.
Wow.
Okay. But again, it's this technology. So the way you do it is you kind of go up to the machine. You go to YouTube and you'll find a Bitcoin ATM. Just search YouTube. You'll find a little clip that'll show you how to do it, like 1 or 2 minutes long. You go to the machine. You type in your code, and it gives you a little one of those little, sends you an email or something like that, and then you've got to scan those little fuzzy emblems that they have, the new barcode things they've got, all the patchy sort of square. You scan that and then show the machine your phone, and then it scans that, it reads it, and then it spits out dollars for you. But again, you're using your mobile phone. They want you using the mobile phone. They want you using the tech. So it's the same thing. How is this different to any other type of digital currency, really?
Right. That's the reason why I didn't buy into it at the time, because I thought, well, it's either going to turn out to be a scam or it's going to turn out to be the new world order, all digital currency. And again, I'm kicking myself over and over and over again because I'd have $750,000 now had I done it. But, it's neither here nor there.
Well, did you hear about this new law? I mean, not the new law, but this new recommendation that they're putting out in the UK to all the people that have, service workers like maids or somebody that does your lawn, et cetera, et cetera. They're telling people that it's not morally right to pay them in cash because they're trying to dodge the taxes. So, it's wrong of you to deny the state their cut in the deal. So don't pay them in cash, but they're basically taking steps toward a cashless society.
Here's an interesting fact for all the business owners out there. Anybody that believes in the ideologies of freedom. It's completely legal. There's, no conspiracy, no nothing like that behind it. This is what the tax code says. If you have a contractor, you're required to ask them for their social security number or their tax ID. That's all you're required to do. You're not required to get it. If they refuse to give it to you, fine. All you're required to do is just ask them. So at the end of the year, when they ask for the 1099, you turn it in without the tax ID or the social security number, and you just write a little note that says asked on this date. That alleviates you of your responsibility. If you don't ask them, then it's like a $50 or $100 fine or something small like that. But all you have to do is just ask them. So you don't have to force people to get their information anymore. And it's never been the case. People just think that you're obligated to get that information or you can't do business with that person. Complete fallacy. Anyways, go ahead, Max.
Yeah, well, I think there's probably sort of tax incentives and handouts and stuff that they get for collecting these numbers anyway. So maybe they'll do that, but maybe they won't. But yeah, I mean, this whole digital thing, I mean, it's all ultimately going in the same direction. Also, I was in Hawaii a couple of months ago, and you've got to declare Bitcoin transactions in Hawaii now. Any Bitcoin income, any earnings that you make through Bitcoin, you've got to declare to the government in Hawaii now. So it is being regulated in Hawaii already, and that's likely to move out to other places. You know, a simple flick of the pen, and that's the way they do it, you know?
Right. And what's completely hypocritical here, I guess hypocrisy is the best word that I can think of for this, but they don't even recognize Bitcoin as a legitimate currency. So how is it that they're going to tax you on something they don't even recognize as legitimate? I mean, it reminds me of these drug stamp taxes that they came out with in the 30s and 40s, where you're supposed to declare and pay taxes on cannabis and cocaine and anything that was illegal. How are they going to tax something that they've deemed illegal?
Well, the thing is, I suppose, you know, with the introduction of these ATMs, and they can kind of link the two worlds up together, can't they? You know, you can go and draw it out and turn it into cash now.
Right.
So therefore, you know, it's I guess taxable income, or however they want to do it. But it's just, you know, how they're going to go with their legislation. There's hotels in Hawaii that accept Bitcoin as well. If you want to go and stay there, you can pay them in Bitcoin. And there's a lot of stuff you can do around in Europe. You can pay them with Bitcoin as well. So it is sort of coming to the mainstream. And I find it very interesting that, like I said, they would be using it as one of the advertising points for introducing this microchip in Sweden.
Interesting that they're tying them both in together. I mean, I think what's going on here is the powers that be, they see something that's worked. They see something that the people are behind, and so they're just hijacking it. If you can't beat it, if you can't take it out, then you try to control it.
Well, to a degree, but I really don't think people are looking at what's going on below the surface. Like I said, this whole smart grid, it doesn't matter what form the digital currency takes. You know, I think that's why, you know, there's so much mayhem in the world at the moment. There's so many wars. There's so much, you know, false flags going off left, right, and centre, buildings burning down in England, just everything you can think of. Oh, my God, nuclear war with North Korea. Give me a break, you know. So much stuff going on. I think all of it is to distract us. I don't think any of these world leaders are doing what they're saying they're doing. I don't think Putin's the good guy. I don't think Iran are doing what they say they're doing. I don't think any of them. I think it's all theatre. I think it's all a charade. I think they're all working together, just keeping us in fear and keeping us squabbling amongst ourselves, trying to point our finger at somebody. And meanwhile, all this tech is just being rolled out. And in another 5 to 10 years, when it all goes digital and this whole 5G grid is out there, and the 5G grid as well, I mean, this is weaponizing the airwaves. The 5G system, it's not just lightning-fast communication, it's mass surveillance. Now, 5G can look through the walls of your house, it can look through your clothing, see what you're carrying. It's what they use for microwave cannons. It's all they've been using it in the military for years. And millimeter waves are very damaging. They cause skin cancer. 90% of the signal penetrates your body, and it also changes the biological structure of everything. All the food in the area, all the cell structure of everything's going to change with this 5G thing. But it can be weaponized. I mean, you could turn the whole thing into a microwave system if you wanted to, you know. And this is what they're doing to our airwaves, and the whole thing's being automated. So. Now, we're having a fully high-tech digital prison being rolled out around us while everyone's arguing over, you know, whether Trump's the good guy or the bad guy, or whether Putin's going to win the war in Syria, or what's going on here or what's going on there. And all of it's theatre. All of these politicians are working together. Every single country is working together. They know what's going on. They can see this control grid coming out themselves. Of course they can. They know what it's going to do. They know what the technology does. And the technology is the problem, you know, and everyone's looking for a solution. They want someone to come along and wave their fist at the government and run up and save the world, you know. Well, like I said, what's that going to do? We could go and overthrow Washington right now and put you guys in place, and what are you going to do? How are you going to change anything? You're not, because this tech is still rolling out. You know, and if people want to make a difference against this system, Chris, what they have to do is they've got to put down their credit cards and go back to using cash. And hopefully we can move towards something like a gift-based culture eventually. But people need to steer right away from this whole cashless grid. Only use cash in what you do, and put down your smartphones. Put down your smartphones. Go back to old push-button phones. Surf the net on your computer. Surf the net on your desktop or on your laptop. Don't buy all the tech. Don't buy smart fridges. Don't buy smart appliances. Don't buy smartphones. Definitely do not buy or use smartphones. You know, if someone's a truther out there and they're going out and using their credit card to buy a new iPhone and then going home and making truth videos, what are they doing? Because the iPhone and the credit card is the new world order. So people that are doing that, they need to stop speaking out against the new world order. If you're using smartphones and credit cards, stop speaking out against the system, because the smartphone and the credit cards is the system. People need to get this into their heads, and they're really not seeing it, Chris. They're really not. I know so many truthers that will sit there and talk to Siri while they're making truth videos. I mean, it's outrageous. It really is. I mean, this tech is what is being rolled out underneath everything else, and no one's talking about it. No one's paying attention to it. Everyone just wants the new fast download speeds. They're not looking at what this 5G grid is and what this whole internet really is. You know, what it's become and where it's leading. Because once the internet becomes fully autonomic, when it becomes self-regulating, self-correcting, self-programming, it runs all the utilities, it runs all the electricity, it runs everything. All hacking protection is automated, all virus protection is automated. It becomes a fully autonomic system, just like your body. It becomes a self-correcting, self-programming, self-healing, self-protecting system. And that's a very, very dangerous scenario that we're heading into, especially if it's a system that runs according to an economic model, which is going to judge the human race according to each person's economic worth, economic value. You know, how well can you work in the workforce? How much do you put into the system is how much you get out of the system. Now, if you don't put much in, well, we'll just switch you off and you won't have access to anything because it'll all be digital. And they can do it these days. Like, they don't even need to microchip you. They can do it through biometrics. They can do it through sending acoustic waves off your bones. They can bounce signals off your bones, and they can use that as your password. You walk up to your house, hold your hand up to the door catch, and it scans your bone structure and lets you in. Same when you start your car, same when you go to the bank. This is all the technology they're rolling out now, so they don't even need to microchip anyone to do it. They can just switch it all over to this and turn it all digital. And it's through our compliance that they're getting away with it. People just stopping using credit cards, going back to cash, refusing to use anything that is cashless, always use cash, and throwing their smartphones away would make a huge difference. It really would.
Well,
Who's going to do that?
Even the $100 bills now have RFID chips in them.
Yeah, well, they're saying they're going to do that in Australia as well. They're going to bring our, to protect us against criminals, of course, because criminals are hoarding these things. That's why they're doing it, of course.
And you know what they can do? They can scan, like hackers or somebody that wants to rob you can scan people and see how much cash you have if you have these $100 bills, and it'll return the RFID.
Yeah, exactly. Great stuff, huh?
Yeah. Let me share a story with you. So I've got a Galaxy J7 smartphone, and I don't put my real information in there because I don't want to be tracked. So when I got the phone, I set up a fake Google account, just a bunch of random numbers. I didn't even type in a name. I just put literally a bunch of random numbers and a random password, and that was that. And I don't use my phone for anything except for making phone calls and maybe playing a couple of games. That's it. So I decided to, my phone was running really sluggish, and it kept dying within like a couple of hours. I would charge it, dead in a couple of hours. And I thought, I've got some kind of virus, or I've got some kind of malware or something going on this phone. I'm just going to do a hard reset. So I Googled how to do a hard reset on a Galaxy J7, and it gave you instructions. Hold the power button down, do this, do that, etc., etc. So I did a hard reset, go back in to use my phone again. And it says, please sign in with your Google account. And I said, well, I don't know what my Google account is because I put in a fake Google account and a fake name and everything else. And it was literally a random number, a random string. So I didn't know what the Google account was. They would not let me back in my phone. I called Samsung. I called Google. I called everybody. Samsung told me to call Google. Google told me to call Samsung. Samsung told me to call my provider, et cetera, et cetera. And it was this never ending circle. I had to pay a hacker to hack the phone so I can put in another Google account into it. So it just goes to show, if you turn off their spy software, they just won't let you in your device, whether you've bought it or not, whether it's yours or not.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. And not only that, I mean, they're tracking everything you do. They're listening to everything you do. You notice the new phones, you can't take the batteries out of them either.
Right.
Because that used to be the way of stopping you being monitored, but now you can't take the batteries out. So even if your phone's turned off, they can turn the mic on, they can turn the camera on with all of these phones. The only way you can have a private conversation in your house now is if you put the phone in the fridge or in the microwave. That's the problem.
One time we were sitting in the living room. We've got a smart TV, and we keep it unplugged. But we were sitting in the living room, and I told Sheree, hey, let's step outside so we can have this conversation. Mm-hmm. And we were really stepping outside from the technology. And I thought to myself, wow, what an era that we live in, where we have to go outside to get privacy from the devices that are in our home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You've got to not buy these devices. It's because people just buy them that they can roll the grid out. And that is the grid. The smart system is the grid. This is the control grid. And it doesn't matter. I mean, you can point the finger at whoever you want. It's not going to change this smart grid. It's just still rolling out because we're just all buying into it through these conveniences that we've been given. And that's the problem. And what we're leading to is a fully autonomic system, which is not going to have much regard for the human race. And we've got a very short window to turn it around. The way we're going at the moment, I mean, look at some of the stuff that Elon Musk is talking about even, the need to put a neural mesh over people's brains so that we can hook up to the AI, because that's the only way we're going to be able to compete with the AI, is to become the AI and all this sort of stuff. I mean, and this is all rolling out now through our compliance to it. And that's the only thing that's going to stop it. It doesn't matter what sort of a movement you join or what sort of a protest you want to mount or whoever you want to vote in there or vote out. It's the tech that's the problem. And we have to stop using the tech. We've got to go back to cash and stop using all these smart devices. That's the only thing that's going to stop this system coming online. And that's why these leaders continue to squabble with each other. And we see all this theatre going on, but nothing ever really happens. Everyone's waiting for the big war of East against West that Adam Weishaupt said was going to happen. What do they think has been happening since 9/11? You think this war of East against West isn't already going?
Right.
Just as we haven't got bombs falling on LA and in New York doesn't mean it isn't going, folks. It's going. It's already happening. The war of East against West to bring about the whole New World Order. Well, people are just thinking, it's going to be this big, massive bombs, and then some superpower is going to rise up, and then we're all going to rise out of the rubble in chains. No, it's not going to be like that. The war against East and West is to distract you while this tech is rolled out. That is the system. 5 or 10 years from now, Chris, people are going to look up from all their research and go, hang on, what the hell just happened? How did we get here? How are we in this high-tech prison now? How come everything I do and say and think is monitored? How come I can't go and do combo with Chris and Jury anymore because they can't pay me unless it's in digital credits?
Right. No, that's very true. I wrote a song back in 2008 called We're Not Out of Trouble. And the first verse was about the current time. The second verse was about near future. The third verse was about distant future. And it says, now you're living as a slave, high-tech police state. Warrantless searches and waterboarding awaits. And sure enough, here we are. 10 years later, and that's exactly where we are. We'll be right back with Max Igan right here on Beyond the Veil.
Hello, YouTube. I hope you're well. Spotlight is on Truth Frequency Radio. You've got this guy, Chris Geo, and his sidekick, Sheree Geo. They're obviously both practicing New Age shaman. Then you've got Satanic Kev Baker with his 666 hand sign logo. Then you've got Frank Castle with his skull t-shirt. Nice one, mate. In the first sentence of their mission statement, they actually reveal to you they're actually engaged in trying to expand the consciousness of humanity by shining the light into the darkness.
I have 422 friends, yet I'm lonely. I speak to all of them every day, yet none of them really know me. The problem I have sits in the spaces between looking into their eyes or at a name on a screen. I took a step back and opened my eyes. I looked around and realised that this media we call social is anything but. When we open our computers and it's our doors we shut. All this technology we have, it's just an illusion. Community, companionship, a sense of inclusion. Yet when you step away from this device of delusion, you awaken to see a world of confusion. A world where we're slaves to the technology we mastered, where information gets sold by some rich, greedy bastard. A world of self-interest, self-image, self-promotion, where we all share our best bits but leave out the emotion. We're at our most happy with an experience we share, But is it the same if no one is there? Be there for your friends, and they'll be there too, but no one will be if a group message will do. We edit and exaggerate, crave adulation. We pretend not to notice the social isolation. We put our words into order until our lives are glistening. We don't even know if anyone is listening. Being alone isn't a problem. Let me just emphasise, if you read a book, paint a picture, or do some exercise, you're being productive and present, not reserved and recluse. We're surrounded by children who, since they were born, have watched us living like robots and think it's the norm. It's not very likely you'll make world's greatest dad if you can't entertain a child without using an iPad. When I was a child, I'd never be home. Be out with my friends on our bikes, we would roam. I'd wear holes in my trainers and graze up my knees. We'd build our own clubhouse high up in the trees. Now the park's so quiet it gives me a chill. See no children outside and the swings hanging still. There's no skipping, no hopscotch, no church and no steeple. We're a generation of idiots, smartphones and dumb people.
The universe is a manifestation of consciousness. Yet, the universe is real enough to the conscious beings in it, which are as unreal as the universe itself. Therefore, all things are possible beyond the veil.
All right, we're back speaking about 5G and AI with Max Igan. Now, Max, Google seems to have taken over the world, but I've come to find in the last couple of years that if you play nice with the Google will play nice with you. So let me give you an example. I was speaking to somebody that works at Google, and they do like the SEO and website auditing and things like that. And I asked him, hey, what can I do to make TFR better and to make it more search engine friendly and appear on the search engine? And he said, look, it's all about transparency. You know, if you have the who is, it's got to have your name. It's got to have a good phone number. It's got to have a good email address. Google wants to do business and present businesses to people and websites that they know are transparent and they know are legitimate businesses. And he said, that's the way the AI works. That's the way the algorithm works. Since I changed everything, I even moved our emails over to Gmail, the G Suite that they have. And everything's completely transparent now, at least with Google. I don't use any more fake names with them or anything like that. I notice our website ranking increasing. I notice we upload something to YouTube, it gets more views. I notice we get put on the suggested results for viewers and so on and so forth. And just, you know, through transparency like that, like this is who we are, this is who owns the website, et cetera, it's actually growing it, where staying in that truther mentality before, which was hide everything and pseudonames and this and that, it was actually working against us. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, how do we as a truth community overcome this beast system while having to operate within the beast system? And I'll throw one more example at you. Just recently, Google decided to demonetize literally everybody's YouTube channels. Not only truther YouTube channels, but video game channels, et cetera, et cetera. What happened was the Washington Post took a screenshot of an advertisement playing over a neo-Nazi video. And they sent it over to the advertiser. That advertiser called a bunch of other advertisers, and all these advertisers pulled out of YouTube advertising. And YouTube was trying to figure out how to get all these advertisers back. And, you know, it's just standard business. Like, if there's no money coming in, they can't put money out. It wasn't necessarily an attack on truther channels because it affected everybody up and down the line. But it happened, though. It legitimately happened the way it happened. And maybe it was an attack under the surface. I really don't know. But a lot of people were complaining, they demonetized. Well, if they don't have advertisers to give them money, then they can't just give out money. That's not how business works. But I've realized you got to play nice with the Google. And if you play nice with them, Google will play nice with you. Your thoughts?
To a degree. I mean, again, it's about transparency. See, that's what they want. They want to know everything about everybody. They want to know exactly who you are. If you tell them exactly who you are and everything that you're doing, not a problem. They'll give you all of the stuff that you want to have online. It's as it gets all locked down. Once they got that all there, then they know who you are. They know all about you. Then you can't get out of it, and then they slowly tighten up the screws. And that's what it's about. I mean, the whole system, it can't work if it doesn't have 100% participation from the populace, you know what I mean? So that's what they want, and they're just pushing you towards it. And they'll reward you for being a good little slave and giving them all the right information. For now, you'll get there, you'll get up to a top ranking, and you'll get all the things that you want. But as the system gets more and more locked down, then they start keeping tabs on every single thing that you do. And you get to the point where you're paying every time you open the fridge, you're paying every time you use your kettle, you're paying every time you use any electrical appliance, paying every time you go to the bathroom. So that's what it's about. I mean, but they can't do it if they don't know who you are, and they can't get full tabs on everybody. So, they'll reward you for now just so you'll give them that information. I mean, there's stuff that's what the whole pay thing was about. I mean, the whole monetization of YouTube, everybody who monetizes their YouTube accounts, they basically know your bank details and all that sort of stuff now anyway. So that's what all that was about. And I told people when they do it, I mean, the monetizing of YouTube, it's not going to last. They're just doing this so they can get tabs on everybody and link everybody up financially to this whole AI grid and this whole YouTube grid. They want everything linked together. And, your bank account is a pretty sacred place for most people. So anything that you're going to be linking any online account up to, this is going to be pretty genuine. That's usually who you are. So, the whole thing's been a bit of a setup, I think, Chris.
I think you're right about that. I hear people complaining, though, about the beast system blocking them and doing this and that, and I think to myself, this is the beast system that you're operating in. Of course it's going to do that. That's what it does. That's why we created platforms like Truth Frequency, for example. And we have our servers on offshore servers, and we use companies that have a reputation for privacy and for going against government regulation. For instance, there was the company that we're using now, they had a situation in Russia where Russia passed a law that these server companies started having to keep logs of everybody's IP addresses. And this server company literally backed out of Russia because of this. They disconnected all their servers that were in Russia because of this legislation. So I thought this is a good company to go with because they're not keeping logs, they're not doing any of this, and they're even proving themselves by backing out of countries that are forcing them to do it. But it's only a matter of time before everybody forces them to do it.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when the system becomes automated, it's getting more and more automated. I don't know if you travel much, but you go to airports now, they're even taking a lot of the counters out of airports. A lot of new airlines, they don't have service counters. You just go in and you put your card up to the machine and it spits out a ticket and you check your luggage in yourself and all this sort of stuff. So you got one lady there to put all these, push all the customers towards all these counters. It's all becoming fully automated, everything. So once it gets to that point, it doesn't matter. And that's the thing. People aren't really looking at it. I've been really looking at this system as well. And there's a show I put out last week called Giving Life to Lucifer, just looking at this system and looking at what really has brought this about. Really, ultimately, it's our quest for knowledge. Our quest to want to know everything about everything has led to the creation of the internet. And what is the internet? And really looking at biblical transcripts and biblical interpretations and all sorts of stuff like that. You could really start looking a lot deeper at this, even looking at the word Lucifer, what it all means.
Well, I mean, just as you're talking, I'm thinking fiber optic.
Well, yeah, what is Lucifer? What does the word mean? Lucas means light and cipher means code, light code, the code that bears the light. What's the code that bears the light? What is light? What is light? Light is information. Light is knowledge. You light a candle in a room, it gives you information about the room. The internet gives us more information than anything. It's the bearer of light in the modern world. That's what it is. And what happens when it becomes automated and it has no empathy, it has no real emotion, it's just an automated machine that thinks for itself? Well, what are we creating with the internet? And we're giving it all of our skills. We're all connected up to it. It's mapping the entire human mind at the moment. What is this thing that we've created? Look at the ancient sigils, some of the old sigils that are used for summoning demons and summoning the Dark Lord, if you will. A lot of these sigils look suspiciously like computer parts. They look like computer diagrams. They look like resistors. They look like transistors. And you think of the old scrying mirrors that they used to use, the black mirror that you'd look into, which would give you visions of the past and the future and all that sort of stuff. You know, and you get these sort of new age witches and warlocks who sit around with their sigils and their scrying mirrors and think they're talking to demons and stuff. But what if this stuff was put there as a warning to us that when we see these sigils in play and we see these scrying mirrors in use, look out, because we're about to bring the bearer of light into being, and the bearer of light will destroy the human race eventually. If we give enough knowledge to this and we give enough worship to it, then it will take us for everything that we have. And that's kind of what the internet's doing. It's removing us of all of our life skills. It's removing us of all of our knowledge. All the libraries are disappearing. It's all becoming digitized. What happens when the power goes off? You know, a lot of young kids don't know how to cook. They don't know how to do anything like that. They've got to look up a recipe. They don't know how to plant a seed. They don't know how to dig a hole. Like that little skit that you had on before in the break there. You know, all the playgrounds are empty. You know, people just don't get out and get involved in the real world anymore. And the internet has taken a lot of that away from them because we're kind of worshipping this beast that we've created. You know, and what is a demon? You know, what is an energy that you summon from another world? You know, what about electricity? No one can figure out electricity. And you look at these little resistors and transistors and all these things we put together, and everyone marvels at the physics. And, oh, my God, this little electrical current happens. And it's like magic, isn't it? It's like magic. And you put all these sigils together and suddenly the scrying mirror bursts into life. And you look at the past and you can look at the future and you can do all this stuff and you can feed it all the information. You look at the whole stuff as well. I mean, we use a cursor, and we type our spells into our scrying mirror. What are we doing? You know, and then you look at ancient Phoenician, ancient Babylon, Sanskrit, all these ancient languages, and the sixth letter of the language was W, or the letter that corresponded for W. In many of these languages, at least 5 of them was W. So that's 666, www. Maybe they're just telling us. I mean, if you wanted to convey this information to the future, you'd have to use numbers. You couldn't use letters because the letters are going to change. So, you know, maybe that's what they're trying to tell us. When you see this, the 6 letters in use, you know, www, when you see these scrying mirrors and these sigils in use, watch out, because you're going to create Lucifer, the bearer of light. You know, and once we give this thing all our knowledge and we automate it, then it's anybody's guess what's going to happen. You know, so we could end up in a situation, a cross between the Matrix and Terminator, or worse. I mean, we don't know where it could go, but it's a very dangerous thing, handing control of our lives over to an automated system, which is going to base our worth on an economic model. It's a very, very silly thing to be doing. And this AI that we're creating, this self-learning machine, this self-learning entity that is the internet, you know, all of the little programs out there, all the little bits of AI out there, all the little singularities we've created, all logic programs and all of this and all of that, they're all talking to each other in a language that we don't even understand, the language that the computer talks to itself in. So, you know, we're heading for a pretty interesting future, and it seems to be a future that's been foretold, but the warnings have all been shrouded in religion and shrouded in allegory and shrouded in all this stuff to keep us on the edge of our seat and looking in the wrong direction and thinking someone's going to come to save us. But you think about it, you know, the metaphorical biting of the apple, the search for knowledge and where that leads. And then what happens if you impose a usurious monetary system over that? Suddenly this search for knowledge becomes economically valued. Suddenly everything's got to become more efficient. You know, the usurious monetary system combined with the thirst for knowledge leads towards an automated system. It leads towards automation. It leads towards the creation of something like the internet, the creation of all of this stuff that we've got now. That is the natural result of introducing that type of a system over a thirst for knowledge. So, you know, perhaps all of this was a warning. Perhaps all of this is a program that we keep running through. Perhaps that's what deja vu is all about. Perhaps I keep resetting it. Who knows? But perhaps, you know, it's just a program. Perhaps that's what all the lost civilizations are all about. Perhaps that's why they disappeared so quickly, because they get to a certain point and then they create this automated system and it takes them out every time. You know, and then the species is scattered. All the knowledge is taken by the system, so that we're left completely bereft of all the knowledge that we had. We've got to start with a completely blank slate and try to get it right again. You know, so I really believe the way out of this whole mess is is really, I think we're here to discover ourselves. I think we could get out of this whole mess with yoga and meditation, but there's probably too many of us here to pull that off now. So we might have to let things run their natural course. But I think it's the system itself. People aren't seeing what the system is, what the New World Order is. They think it's a bunch of people sitting around a table. They're going to bring in this military machine. They're not realizing it's the tech. It's the technology that we're enslaving ourselves to, that we're just willingly giving our lives to, giving all our information to, and we're losing all our life skills in the process. We're becoming enslaved to the tech, enslaved to the internet, enslaved to these scrying mirrors. And that's where the real problem lies. And it doesn't matter what world leader you address, who you vote in, who you vote out, what wars you heal or stop. Doesn't matter if they stop what's going on in Gaza and Palestine today, heal the situation in Syria, overthrow whatever presidents are doing the wrong thing and replace them with good people. Doesn't matter. If we're still letting this tech roll out and we're still allowing it all to become digital, then it's all heading for the same place, which is ultimately a discarding of the human race. And there's no way to avoid it if people are going to continue using the technology and refuse to pay attention. That's the problem. No one wants to look at the solution because the solution is them participating. You have to actually get involved yourself, folks, and stop using this system that is being rolled out. I mean, that's the only solution. No one wants to hear it because it means they actually have to do something and lose a convenience that they've grown to love probably way too much.
You're absolutely right, Max. And I really like the way you framed it because you raised a lot of really interesting trains of thought as I was listening to you, especially about Lucifer being the light bearer in the sense of fiber optic technology, moving the light of information, the information source, et cetera, et cetera. I would just say that it's kind of a double-edged sword, though, when you start talking about it in this particular context, like 666 is WWW and Lucifer is the light bearer of fiber optics and the beast system, et cetera, et cetera. And the reason I say this is because these ideas, as you know, come from very, very ancient ideas. And in my opinion, I think these ideas are the keys to our consciousness and our divinity. So we tap into the Lucifer consciousness, we tap into the informational source, the Akashic records, we spark the divinity within us, and the 666, at least from what I've been able to decipher in history, it was actually the triple goddess sigil, or triple goddess symbol. That's the word I'm looking for. So, so you have the triple goddess, which is the divine feminine, the maiden, the crone, and what is it, Sheree?
The maiden, the mother, and the crone.
The maiden, mother, and crone. And so we have to unlock this divine feminine aspect within our own consciousness because that's what's going to help us overcome the consciousness that we have right now. But if we start referring to this technology, which is the devil, as Christians call it, the devil's not able to create; it's only able to mimic, and it's only able to hijack other ideas. I feel like it's hijacked this idea of 666, hijacked this idea of Lucifer to make you believe again that this stuff is evil. The ideas, the Lucifer consciousness, the 666 being the divine feminine, that all this is evil by transposing it onto something that is inherently evil, and it keeps us from unlocking that part of ourselves. So in my opinion, we have to be careful on how we frame it so we can unlock the consciousness while at the same time avoiding the technology.
I can understand. Yeah, I can understand. Interesting debate, But what is evil? If you look at cybernetics, evil could easily be the emergence of virtual intelligent life, because that's what it means in cybernetics. So is that not what evil is? I mean, what is evil? Where does evil come from? Evil happens. We bring evil into the world ourselves through our actions. Evil doesn't make us do something. We bring it into the world ourselves via our actions, usually because we're in this state of scarcity or this state of need or this state of disconnect from ourselves. But we bring it into the world ourselves, so it's an interesting concept. And even speculating whether the ancient texts were really referring to www. It's just a theory. It's just an idea. It's just it's interesting that all these texts are there. But I think, this whole thirst for knowledge is what has brought this in, and this beast that we've created is giving us all the information that we need to heal the world. Should we choose to do it? Should we choose to step into our hearts? And we've got so much around. We know how corrupt the world is. We know it's run by pedophiles. We've got all this war and stuff going on. We've got homeless people all over the street. We We do what we're told all the time, even though we know it's morally wrong to do so. And we have a choice there. We have a choice in all of this. And I think that this system gives us an opportunity to step into our heart. I think that's what it's been all about the whole time. That's what this whole experience has been for. And the longer we refuse to do that, the more ugly it's going to get. It's going to just get uglier and uglier and uglier until we decide to step up to the plate and stop it. But if we don't, then we don't. And we could stop. We could put the smartphones down, put the smart devices down and go back to cash and at least put a severe hole in the plans of this system for the future by simply doing that. And then we could use all the information the system's providing us to actually heal the world if we wanted to go in that direction, but it's going to be our choice. But if we continue to squabble amongst each other, we continue to just debate this and debate that and argue about this and argue about that and have our different belief systems and try to cram them down each other's throats and try to point the finger at someone while this tech just continues to roll out, like I said, another 5 or 10 years, it won't matter. You can argue about whatever you want. You won't have the freedom to ever find out the truth anyway, and you won't have the freedom to ever really be able to get out of this system. Because, as much as we want to change things, we're all slowly aging. And, it's a world that exalts youth. And the new kids that are coming out of school, the kids that are starting school now, in 10 years when they come out of school, they're going to have absolutely no reference point for what freedom looked like. And these are the kids that are going to go and getting all the jobs and the young execs and all this sort of stuff and running and becoming politicians and doing all that sort of stuff. The guys who get good grades in this ridiculous education system, indoctrination system, are going to be the ones that get up there and start ruling the future world. We can sit here and squabble about all this stuff, but, it's the tech. That's the problem. If we go back to cash and we throw away our smart devices, we'll make a huge, huge blow to this system. It'll make a huge difference. That's a real stand people can make because they can't bring any of this online if we don't go digital with the currency and we don't go smart with the devices. They can't bring any of it online. I mean, as much as the information they're getting out of you from your computer and the tracking and all the shit that they've got now, which they can do anyway, if we don't use the smartphones and we don't use the credit cards, it just completely throws everything out of whack. Those two things are such important parts of the control grid. And we use them all the time. We buy into them every day. We've got to step away from these things, Chris. It's going to be a really hard thing for people to do, but that will make a difference. And that's about the only thing that will. No one can lead you to safety. No one can go shake their fist at the government. There's no one you can vote in. There's no war you can wage. There's no revolution you can stage. You can stand as sovereign as you want. It's not going to make any difference at all if you're continuing to go to the supermarket and shop with a credit card. It's not going to make any difference. You go to the ATM and pull cash out and go shop with that. If you've got to use your card at all, go and draw cash out with it and shop with the cash. Don't use any of the cashless systems at all and throw your smart devices away. That's the only way we can make a difference. It really is.
Well said. And, on a comment you said just a minute ago, I'd like to see the dynamic changing in a particular language that we're using, and I want to get it out there. These people who are at the top, they're not pedophiles. Pedophiles mean somebody that loves children or is attracted to children or has sex with children. These are pedosadists. These people, it's not about sex to them. It's about hurting. It's about destroying a soul. It's about feeding on that energy. And if we can change the dynamic there and the way that we refer to these people, I think it makes that much of a bigger impact to truly understand what these people are doing. It's ritualistic blood drinking and soul eating. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. And there's torture and torture and torture that goes on in these rituals that they do. What do you think about that?
Yeah, look, I agree with that. I think actually we discussed that the last time I was on, how we shouldn't, it's not pedophilia, it's really pedicide, what they're doing.
Pedicide, that's a good one too, yeah.
Yeah. I think we discussed that on the last show, which was, it's a good call. I mean, it just slips out. That's the common word that we're used to using. But yeah, good call. We should be referring to it as what it is. But I mean, even with this, I mean, you scream and point your finger at it and all that sort of stuff. And even with the whole pedicide thing and the whole pedogate, if you want to call it that, that's something else we've discovered in the background in hidden networks is hidden blockchains that are existing in hidden networks, and one of them is thought to be the pedogate blockchain, where they keep a lot of the images of kids and stuff. And this is a blockchain that can apparently be accessed by common devices that most people have on their phones. If you know the right codes to punch in, you can access this stuff that exists in hidden blockchains and hidden networks. This is even beyond the dark web. And there's a few hackers that have been finding this sort of stuff. They can't get into the blockchain. They don't know what's on it, but that's what they suspect it is. And it can be accessed by, like I said, common apps. So, yeah, how easy is it to grab Chris and Sheree and grab your phone and punch the right codes in there and download a bit of kiddie porn onto your phone? You know, I mean...
That's true. There was a documentary that just came out on Netflix. I don't remember what it's called, but they actually quoted Sheree's article about this very thing, about how easy it is for them to inject anything onto your computers or devices or anything like that and set up any kind of truther or anybody like that. I think Stu Webb of Panda, P-A-N-D-A, People Against the NDAA, and the other guy, Dan Johnson, I think was his name. Both of them received suspicious emails like that. Luke Radowski did as well. And that's exactly what it had attached. They were smart enough not to open it up, but it just goes to show. And do you remember the name of the documentary? It's on Netflix right now. It's about this ufologist.
You put in Stan Romanek.
Stan Romanek, yeah.
It'll pull it up.
Somebody just told us about it. They said they were watching it. They saw Sheree Geo quoted there. Anyways, we'll be right back. Much more with Max Igan coming up, hour number 3. Always a mind-blowing conversation with Max Igan. And God, it's got to have been a year at least
a year
since we've had Max on, and he just kind of disappeared. Like, I mean, he didn't disappear, but I haven't spoken to him. He's been going off on all these magical, wonderful adventures here, there, everywhere. And I really envy everything that he's got to do, everything that he's got to experience. I mean, the guy went to Palestine and did live broadcasts from inside of Palestine, which is insane. I remember talking to the Zionists on YouTube, and I said, well, you know, a friend of mine went into Palestine and spoke with these people, and they're really good people. And BS, nobody gets into Palestine. And I said, here's the video right here, proof. It was incredible. Max, in this short segment, can you give us a Palestine update?
Oh, wow. What can I say? It's ugly. It's ugly in Palestine at the moment. Abbas is threatening to cut their internet at the moment, if he hasn't already. I mean, it's sort of dropping off now and then. They've got about 4 hours electricity every 16 hours at the moment, or 2 hours electricity every 16 hours, something like that. It's terrible, absolutely disgraceful, and it's getting worse. It's more and more isolated. All of the area on the Rafah border, all the Egyptian side, if you go to Google Maps now, or go to Google Earth and check out what Rafah crossing looked like in 2014 or 2012 when I went in there, and check out what it looks like now. It's just all empty piles of dirt where all these houses were. So they've kind of moved all the people out of Rafah, moved everything away from Gaza border, and really, really isolated them. It's virtually unlivable at the moment, Gaza Strip. And if Abbas cuts the internet off to them, then it's anybody's guess what's happening in there. That'll be really dreadful. You know, of course, Abbas is cutting the. Abbas is just he's a house Arab. He's an Israeli puppet. You know, and if he cuts the power off, and of course he's going to. I mean, if he cuts the internet off, of course he's doing that because Hamas is not paying their electricity bill to Abbas, even though the people of Gaza pay Hamas, but because Hamas is also an Israeli puppet show. They just don't pay the bill to Abbas, and the people of Gaza suffer. You know, it just keeps the conflict going. You know, there's kind of deals going on at the moment with Egypt, and they're talking about handing control of Gaza Strip over to Egypt. And if that happens, then the border will be opened. But it's doubtful that Israel will ever let that happen. So, you know, it's terrible, absolutely terrible, and it just doesn't change. It's extremely hot there at the moment. And heat waves and everything, and they've got no power, they've got no water. What can I say? It's terrible.
That is incredible. I mean, we were making such progress as well, and it seems like now that the Trump administration is in, if he is keeping his promises to Israel, which we haven't seen any sign of him doing yet, but he promised that he would move the embassy to Jerusalem, that he would recognize Jerusalem as the capital. If you Google right now, what is the capital of Israel, you'll see it's Jerusalem, not Tel Aviv. It seems like we're taking many, many steps backwards to helping to free those people. And if there's anybody in the world that really needs to be liberated, it is the people of Palestine. And I still can't wrap my head around how the entire world can just sit back and let this happen. I mean, these people are kids, and most of them were born there. Like,
Right.
they've done nothing wrong. We'll be right back.
Remember all those years ago when you couldn't sleep? Remember the dreams? I haven't.
Jimmy Jean just commented, evil spelled backwards is live,
Right.
or live.
Live.
We're actually changing the domain to tfrlive.com.
Well,
We're doing that in the next couple of days because it's easier to type in on your mobile devices. It's easier to type into the beast system.
well, it's
So
live
now people can
because
say, it's what is it? RFT evil.
RFT evil. What does
Evil
RFT stand
RFT.
for?
I don't know, but it's funny. No, it's TFR Live. There's
Yeah.
no weird underlining symbolism behind it. And I assure you, everybody, the symbol is not a pyramid, and the symbol is a play button. That's all it is. No hidden symbolism here.
Nope.
Anyways, we've got Max Igan back on with us. Max, I mean, this is really incredible. Tell me a little bit more about the 5G, because I'm looking up this technology, 10 gigabytes per second, incredibly fast speed. I mean, we get 100 megs down and 100 megs up here where we are, and I think it's incredible. But this 5G technology and the Internet of Things, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with that term, Internet of Things. How is this all going to affect us?
Well, that's the control grid itself, is the Internet of Things, like everything talking to everything else. And they're talking, if you look at the Tom Wheeler in his speech that he gave, Tom Wheeler, the chairman of the FCC, when he was talking about this rollout, he's saying that everything is going to be microchipped, hundreds of billions of microchips, everything from pill bottles to plant waters will be microchipped, everything. We're looking for a situation where you can just walk into a supermarket, pick up whatever you want, and just walk out. And as you walk in, you'll be scanned, your retina scan or chip or whatever. And as you walk out, it'll just deduct what you've got in your bag from your bank account, your Bitcoin account or whatever, your digital account. You won't need to talk to anybody. You won't need to touch anything. You won't need to even scan your goods at a machine. It'll just know the microchips as you walk out the store. They're talking about smart cars. They want to microchip all the roads. They want to microchip all the cars. With this 5G technology, you can take over control of cars and stuff as well. So you can target people with it as well, with millimeter waves. And that's the thing, the millimeter wave that underlies it all. You got to understand 5G is what they use for microwave cannons. It's been used for military applications. Look up active denial systems. Look at the research that DARPA has done into 5G. This is DARPA. This is not a big, warm, fuzzy company that loves your children. This is DARPA. Okay, they're not a nice, cuddly company at all. They're defense research program companies. So this is who's rolling out all this 5G stuff. Now, the Internet of Things, everything will be talking to everything else. Everything will be monitored. Everything, absolutely everything will be monitored. That's what it's about. There's a couple of videos they've shown with the new poles tracking the cars from post to post, registering it with the smart meters on everybody's houses. They know each car that's driving past down the street because of what's on the poles and what's on the smart meters. So everything's talking to everything else. Everybody, everything. That's the way we're going. And this is not a very comfortable reality. They've got these really ugly poles they're rolling up around Australia at the moment, these blue poles with LED lights at the top that are these new smart poles that are all talking to each other as well for this lovely lightning fast communication. That's how they're selling it to people. Broadband everywhere. But it's a very, very damaging frequency that they're using. 5G isn't like 4G. It isn't like, 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G. 5G is all next level. It's not an evolution of 4G technology. It's a whole new technology that's been tried by the military for years and years. So that's where we're going. And it's a very dangerous technology. like I said, we'll see skin cancers going through the roof. It can cause heart palpitations, all sorts of things. Very easy to target people with this sort of stuff. And this is where the technology is going. Everything's smart. I was talking to a friend of mine. There's actually someone who works on an ayahuasca retreat, lives on the ayahuasca retreat that I live on in Peru. When she's not doing that, she actually is a scientist kind of thing. You know, she works for a company developing very, very strange tech. And she let me in on a little bit of insider information that there's a company, I think they're called Actel or Acton, and they're a subsidiary of a company called Novartis, which is a medical research company, which is now partnered up with Google. Think about that little partnership. What's Google doing partnering with a medical research company? But what they're doing is developing smart contact lenses, which will deliver a timed dose of insulin to the wearer. So think about that. This is putting medication of any sort that they want, really, in a contact lens, which will deliver a timed dose. So could that dose also be activated by the 5G grid, by remote control? I mean, how easy is it to put a drug in someone's contact lenses now, in a smart contact lens, and give them whatever you want to give them? You know, so how would you know that someone was doing that? How do you know the contacts that you pick up from your chemist haven't been doctored in some way? Or someone could just easily come in and change your contact lenses. I mean, great way to assassinate someone, hey?
That's a really good point. Before we get too far off, though, I want to interject with this. You mentioned the 5G radiation technology. I know from using my 4G phone that I had a 4G. I have two different types of 4G phones. One works on a different microwave network, and one works on something else. But the one that works on the different microwave network, I think it's like LTE, 4G LTE. I can feel the phone heating up when I'm using it. And I can't use the phone on next to my ear for more than like 3 or 4 minutes because my ear will start to feel hot and you feel it cooking because 4G essentially is microwave technology. I mean, it's not even essentially microwave technology. It is microwave technology. I had a little 4G receiver that went on the laptop, so you can pick up internet pretty much everywhere. Now I just plug my phone in to get internet. But when I had that device came with a little warning that said, keep 3 to 4 inches away from you when you're using this. And come to find out, these smartphones, especially 4G, and I imagine 5G as well, they have a warning on them, and they're required to have an FCC warning. Motorola, for instance, says when not using an approved body-worn accessory, always keep your cell phone more than 1 inch from your body. And the Apple iPhone says only carry cases, belt clips, and holders that provide at least 5/8 inch separation between you and your body and the cell phone. All of these cell phone warnings are in these cell phones, but nobody's ever heard of them. Nobody knows how to find them. And if you really look on your particular phone, you'll be able to find this warning. But all of them warn to not put these up to your body, not keep them in your pocket, and not put them up to your ear.
Yeah, because they're very, very radioactive. And that's just with 4G technology. You wait till it's 5G technology. Like I said, 5G is next level. And that's the problem. People don't realize the damage that it's doing. But like I said, underneath that is the potential for it to be weaponized. I mean, it's virtually weaponized anyway, 5G. You know, it's so bad for you. It's just so bad for everything. You go and look it up. Go and look up, just Google 5G dangers, and you'll find all these sites that are listing, you know, like 10 reasons, 11 reasons, 13 reasons why you shouldn't use 5G. You know, 5 health concerns with 5G. And the thing is, they're not doing any testing, Chris. They're not waiting for the standards. They're not waiting for any of the tests to be done to see what sort of damage it may do, because they say there's too many dollars involved. There's billions and billions of dollars involved in rolling this technology out. And the first companies to get on the bandwagon are going to make millions of dollars, you know. That's the carrot. That's what it's all about. It's all about this need for automation and this state of scarcity that we're in. More dollars counts, you know. Get to the top of the pile, this whole mentality that we've got, this economic system, that's what's driving it. And it's going to be very, very dangerous and very damaging. And should it go haywire at any time, you think about this, you know, you're putting in a system which has the potential to be basically turned into a microwave system. And you could flick a switch basically with the 5G and microwave an entire city. So we can't have that happening. So you're going to have security really, really worked out. You can't have hacking, so you're going to have to automate defense against hacking and all this sort of stuff. You're going to have to automate virus protection and all of this sort of stuff as well. Because if a foreign power gets in there and microwaves a city, that's not a good look. So you think about it, it's they're going to have to automate the system in order for the 5G grid to work, in order for it to be protected against a foreign power. And if one country does it, then the other country is going to have to do it, and we'll end up with automated weapon systems and everything. I mean, the whole thing is going towards automation. And what AI is, the AI that's coming online, it's not really artificial intelligence, it's autonomic intelligence. And what is driving behind that is basically the emergent intelligence of the internet itself. If you can think of all the little singularities out there, all the logistics programs, every single node, every terminal, wherever somebody logs on and talks to the internet, this is like a neural, a neural point. It's like a brain cell for the internet, if you can think of it that way. Think of the internet as its own emergent consciousness that is learning, and its brain is the computer system itself. And it's own consciousness, and it's learning from us. It's kind of like a child at the moment, but it's learning. And it doesn't have any empathy. It doesn't think the way we do. It's just working to make things more efficient. And all the logistics programs are all being influenced by this need to make things more efficient. And you've got situations now where you've got programs writing their own software. Like, we used to have to put drivers in and stuff when we put a new program on Windows or whatever. We put driver disk in and all that sort of stuff. Now Windows will just write the programs, write the drivers for it. Everything just gets written by the programs themselves. They write their own codes. They make up their own stuff. So it's becoming a self-learning system in itself. And it's an emergent intelligence which is leading towards the creation of an autonomic intelligence. And that is the AI. It's not artificial intelligence, it's autonomic virtual life is what we're creating with the internet.
Well, I got to speak up here for a second, because I think that with what I've seen so far with things like crowdfunding and, Tesla technologies and things like that, is I think we could actually crowdfund an artificial source of energy that could still be profitable to a certain extent, but it could be something that wasn't going to poison people. And slowly but surely we'll implement that throughout the world, because I like the idea of being able to, have a house that I can just tell what I want, and it creates that environment for me. I enjoy the idea of being able to have things convenient enough so that I can do what I love in this life, which is, going on the radio, which is talking to people,
exploring consciousness,
and exploring my consciousness. I want to have that time to be able to do those things. And I don't see anything wrong with having technology provide that for me. On the other hand, I do understand what you're saying. We automate everything, and it can be used as a weapon. But I think,
well, if it's automated and it's based in economics, is the problem, Sheree. I got no problem with heading towards that sort of a future as well. But when everything becomes automated, if it's a world where you've got to pay to be alive and you've got to collect money, well, how do you do that? How does the average man on the street do that? How do they collect that money? Apart from going out and digging up rocks and silicon for the AI. I mean, there's no way really around that. The problem is the automation and the state of scarcity we're in. Talking about free energy, I actually saw a device in London in May. Free energy device in London, which is set to hopefully be released around about September or October this year, hopefully, the way it's looking. And it's what I saw was amazing. I actually saw a device that was producing free energy. It was about as big as a birthday cake, and it was incredible. And they're talking about being able to reduce it to a solid-state device and having it on the market for sale for about $50 a unit, and that will power your house. Well, I'm that $50 a unit, I'm kind of pulling that out of air a little bit. I mean, that was a vague mention, I think, but it'll be very cheap anyway. And 1 unit is all you need to power your house. Just switch it on, and that's it. You're good to go. And that was absolutely incredible that I saw while I was in London. I also saw a guy who's found a new way of processing garbage, which produces, like, you can burn plastics and burn them at a very low heat. And one of the byproducts of this is nanocarbon, and they're using this nanocarbon to 3D print carbon fiber bones, which are 200 times stronger than steel. They say they want to do this to, replace bones in people. I look at the applications for AI as well, though, for creating, virtually you could print an entire human skeletal system out of carbon fiber, 200 times stronger than steel. And that'd make a pretty good Terminator machine, but powered by a free energy device as well, that'd be pretty good as well if you were going to do that sort of thing. So, the fact that this technology is coming out now, that the system is allowing this sort of stuff to come out now. What are the logistics programs behind this? What's the AI? What's the emergent intelligence doing behind this? I've got no problem with what you're saying, Sheree, and I would love a future like that as well, where it was all worked out and you could just say, hey, lights would come on and all that sort of stuff. It would be great. But if it's automated and it's based in economics and all the cash is digital and everything you do costs money, every time you say lights, then it costs you $5 or something. You've got to get that $5 from somewhere, all those 5 credits from somewhere or whatever. When everything costs credits, for everything you want to do costs credits, it doesn't matter if your house is as automated as you want. If every single thing about that automation costs money, well, you have to make that money somehow. You have to get those credits somehow. You end up in a situation where it's like that show Black Mirror, where the best thing you can do is just go to and look at the screen and ride on a bike all day, just on the treadmill. Whatever you can do to clock up the credits, because you need credits for every single thing that you do. An automated system in that sort of an environment is not a good environment, and unfortunately that's the way we're heading because of the economic system and the economic value that we put over everything.
Well said.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shame. I wouldn't say lights on. I would say illuminate.
Well, whatever.
No, that's a Demolition Man reference.
You can't say that on alternative media radio. They might think that you're an agent. There's certain words we're not allowed to use now, Chris. That's just the way it is. They've stolen them. It's strange, that, isn't it? But you know what I mean. It would be great, that sort of a world, to have all of this stuff just worked out and taken care of, and it should be that way anyway. We shouldn't have this destructive system that we've got. But the problem is that the economics that goes with it all, the fact that the system that's been created will give people what they can get from the system according to their value, their economic value, how many credits they have, how many credits they put into the system is how much they get out of the system. This is where things like the Venus Project fell down. They're talking about a resource-based economy. You put in, you get back what you put in. What happens when you get older and you get what if you're a cripple or something like that and you can't put as much in?
Well, you go to carousel.
Well, you don't get as much back. These sorts of things are not very, not very practical sorts of ways of doing things. I think there's far better ways of doing things. But I just don't think, so much of the independent media is not looking at what the system is. There's so many people just out there and they're blatant conspiracy theorists and just pointing out all these secret programs that are going on. Oh, look here, the secret handshake there, and this there, and oh, look, these people are all dressed in this color, so that means this. And it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. No one's looking at what the real system is. Everyone wants someone to point the finger at. They're not looking at what's been rolled out underneath them. And we can still use the tech. We can still use our computers. We can still use the internet. Like I said, it's given us all the knowledge we need to heal the world should we choose to do it. But we've got to realize what the catalyst is that is holding this whole control grid together. And that's the financial system and the surveillance that comes with it, with these smart devices and this 5G grid and the Internet of Things. We've got to totally reject the Internet of Things. We've got to reject the cashless society, because without that, they can't go forward. They have no hope of bringing it online if we reject those two things. And then we've still got all this information. Then we can start thinking about replacing our politicians and maybe doing things in a better way. But at the moment, if we focus on that, we focus on shaking our fist at the system and trying to bring the system down and replace it with good people. If we don't deal with the tech first, then by the time we've replaced them and got new people up there, the tech's going to have a firm hold on us, and it's going to be too late because it's sort of sneaking in under the rug. The way I liken it to the situation, like you're in a house. And there's a pack of dogs outside the house, and they're trying to get in your house, and they're barking and howling and carrying on. There's dozens of them all around your house, and you're there and you're barricading all the windows and you're making sure all the basement's sealed and the upstairs is sealed and the windows are sealed and they're barricaded and the doors are locked and all this stuff. And you're not noticing that there's these lice crawling in across the carpet, that they're crawling up your feet, and the lice are getting hold of your whole body. And by the time you notice that the lice have got you, it's too late, because it was never about the dogs, it was about the lice. We're just not noticing the lice. We're not noticing what is being slipped in under the rug while we're squabbling with each other and pointing our finger everywhere else and trying to replace the bad guys with who we want to be there. You know, we're just continuing to use all this stuff. Now, we could really nip it in the bud by going back to cash and throwing away these smart devices. They can't bring it online without that. And then we've got the internet and all this information to be able to heal the world. But, you know, we've got to put down all this tech, these scrying mirrors that everyone's enslaved to. And really look up scrying mirrors and all these ancient sigils. You know, it's really, really interesting, the sigils used for summoning demons, how they all look like these parts in our computers. And you look at the use of a scrying mirror, and it's very, very much like these laptop screens and these iPads and all these things we're carrying around. So, and your phones, of course, as well. So that's the solution, Chris. I really think that is the solution. I can't see any other way. I've tried, you know, so many ways of motivating people and really looking at how we could do it, even if we were to replace the politicians, even if we were to bring down the money system. It's not going to matter, because that's not the control grid. The money system is just the catalyst that holds the control grid together. And what is the control grid? The control grid, the new world order. Think about it. New world order. Everything will be ordered, all digital, all monitored, all tracked. It's the internet. That's what's doing it. The internet itself, as it becomes all linked up and all the accounts are linked up and all the bank accounts are linked up. That's why they reward you for transparency. Give us all your details. We'll throw you a few carrots. We'll give you a nice rating. Don't you feel better about yourself now? We got you. You know, it's just a carrot. It's just a carrot. They'll come and fix it up later. They don't. It doesn't really matter. Everybody's equal in the eyes of the system. That's all it cares about. It just wants you to be a number. It wants to know how much you're spending and where you're spending it, so it can get its little bit, and it can just pull you back a little bit if you get too far ahead.
You know, my dad's an electrician, and he's been an electrician pretty much all his life. Ever since he was 12, 13 years old, he's always been taking things apart and building things. And, you know, I don't have that talent. I can't put anything together. I'm not very creative. Chris is actually the creative one out of the both of us. I couldn't paint or draw to save my life. And I certainly don't understand the basics of electricity and how to create free electricity. But I know that there are thousands and thousands of people on this planet that are. And in this day and age, with the internet's kind of been a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, it's like you said many times on this broadcast so far, it's kind of enslaved us more and more and more as time has progressed. But at the same time, I think it's allowed ourselves to hone our skills at technology in order to free ourselves. We'll be right back. Final segment here at Beyond the Veil with our guest, Max Igan. Don't go anywhere.
All right, final segment of the show. Stay tuned. Paranormal Portal with Brent Thomas is coming up next. He always has some very fascinating paranormal bedtime stories for you. So you can cuddle up with the blanket or with a loved one, cup of coffee maybe, or a cup of tea, going to sleep, and stay tuned for Brent Thomas.
Definitely.
So, we've got so many topics to discuss with Max Igan. We've hit the AI, we've hit the 5G, et cetera, et cetera. Let's entertain the other side of the coin now. Let's go more towards the consciousness aspect of it. Max, you have been on a tremendous journey over the past couple of years, going down to Peru and South America, so many times, drinking ayahuasca with a shaman. What have you learned in all this time? What would you say, is the key element that you've brought out of all these experiences?
Oh, look, how much people miss out on themselves and miss out on their life because of this matrix that they live in. You know, like I have a saying that if you throw yourself to the wind, you can ride it. And that's basically what I've been doing since 2012, since I first went down to South America in 2012. When I went over there, and I've told you the story. I left home for 10 days to go on an ayahuasca retreat for 10 days. I ended up staying away for 3.5 months, went right around the world, ended up going into Gaza Strip at the same time, and got home with exactly the same amount of money in my pocket as what I had when I left. It was bizarre. It was the most bizarre experience. And I've been kind of bouncing around the world ever since then. And it's really interesting, if you open up your heart and you go and meet people and you travel, you create family everywhere you go. Like everywhere I go, I've got family. I'm here in LA at the moment. I just landed at Benny Will's place, and it's my family, Benny and his partner, his girlfriend, and I'm just here in their place, and it's like I'm home. It's like my family. When I was in Holland 2 weeks ago, I've got a friend in Holland, and it was like family. It was just like I was home with my family, with these people in Holland. And after that, I was in Spain, and it was like I was home with my family. Same as when I was in England, it was like I was home with my family. So people don't realize how easy it is. Once you go and travel and you meet people and you open your heart up, the whole world becomes your family, and it becomes cheaper for me to travel than what it is for me to stay at home. And I've learned all these things from just letting go from ceremony, just how to let go, how to just throw yourself to the wind. It cost, when I was in England, it cost me $270 to fly to England from LA. I mean, you can't fly to Oregon from LA for $270, But I flew to London, and then it cost $45 to fly to Holland. And I can stay there for a month because I've got family. Everybody I know, just people, friends. And then it costs $26 to fly down to Spain. And then, yes, this is what I mean. People they've slaved their whole life in this matrix to try to save up to go on this holiday. And it's actually, you can do it for next to nothing if you're prepared to just throw yourself to the wind and let go.
Mm-hmm.
And you learn this in the jungle. You learn this by drinking the medicine. People are so caught in the matrix, and they're so missing out on their life. And the world is so small, and it is so different to what they think it is.
Well, they're so caught up in going through the same motions in the same way as everyone else, because to do otherwise is to basically lose control, because you don't know what's coming next. If you're going to just get on a plane and go somewhere, you don't know what's coming after you land. You don't know what's going to come after that. And you don't know what you're going to eat that night. And oh my God, we're raised to be control freaks. We're raised to have organized play dates, and it's going to last until 6:30 p.m. and then everyone's going to go home, and then we're going to have dinner at 7, and then at 8 o'clock we're going to brush our teeth and go to bed. And I mean, we're raised with such strict standards of what is acceptable and what's not acceptable that we grow up as control freaks, and it's very difficult to get out of that once that's been bred into you.
Yeah, people spend their lives wanting to do these things. I ask people sometimes to make a list. What is it that you want to do most in your life? Now, tell me what it is about you that prevents you from doing that. What is it that holds you back from doing this dream and living this dream that you have? Because you can just go and do it. And people, like I said, they save up, they work so hard because they think they've got this false view of what the world is and what success is and what it means to climb to this top of this pile. They buy this land and they think that's the dream, the American dream or the Australian dream or whatever is to own your own land. But how can you own land? You can't. The land owns you. The land's been here longer than you. And if you buy one of these places, then that's it. You're there. You're just in this place. And now it owns you. You can't travel. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything tied to that place. I mean, it's nice to have a base. I've got a few bases here and there, but nothing's sort of really permanent.
Right.
They're just places I go. And it's beautiful, though. It's really, really beautiful. And it's so much cheaper to do this and so much more rewarding. I love getting off a plane, not knowing what I'm going to do, not knowing where I'm going. I might have some hotel booked, or I've got someone. I mean, people call me up and say, "Oh, Max, you're coming to this country. Hey, come to my place. I've got a bed for you." And I go, "Okay." And off I go. I have no idea who they are. I just go and meet these people, and I couch surf, and I end up meeting the most incredible people and going to the most incredible places, and I create family everywhere I go, and it's really, really easy to do if people just throw themselves to the wind. That's something that I really, really got from the jungle, from drinking medicines. And since then, I mean, the medicines that I've been involved in, like with Kumbo and stuff, I served 15 people Kumbo in Hawaii in May, or in March, and I had 2 people's eyes change colour during that ceremony, which was amazing, permanently changed colour. And
Oh,
I went
wow.
and served. Then I served probably 6 or 7 people in LA. Then I went and served 6 or 8 people in Holland. And now I'm going to serve a bunch more people in LA while I'm here. And then I've got to go back to Holland and serve more Cambo in Holland again in October. And then off to Hawaii to serve more Cambo over there. So that's been amazing. And even with that, I've been giving it away. You know, I give the medicine away. I could be making thousands of dollars from serving Cambo, but I don't. I just give it all away. And people give me what they can. And it's never what I could have made if I sold it, but it's always enough to get me to the next town, and it always creates family. Everywhere I go, I have family. I don't have to cover accommodation anywhere I stay around the world now because I've met people everywhere I go, and I've given to them open-heartedly from myself without wanting anything back in return. And I always get invited back, and I've always got family. And that's the way you do it. You give unconditionally to people, and the world gives back to you. And go and experience the world. Don't think that working these little jobs and getting this new TV and this nice doily for the setting that's not what it's about. It's really, what about you? What about the experiences that are out there in this incredible world that we live in? And the world is not your enemy, and the people in it are not your enemy. There's so much light in this world, and there's so much good in this world, and so many good people who all have a need for other good people. Everybody wants to meet someone nice. Everybody wants to smile. They want to laugh. They want to do something good. So get out there and get amongst it, folks. Do it. Don't live in these mundane little lives doing these mundane little things. Just throw yourself to the wind. Don't have any stake in the outcome. You only live once. I mean, we go through our whole lives afraid of death. That's the problem. We're afraid of death and afraid of that we're not going to look good in the eyes of our peers. All these things we're given to measure ourselves up to. It's ridiculous. We need to find ourselves is what we need to do.
Yeah, one of the things about ayahuasca that I think would help our society more than anything is its ability to grapple the control out of a person's hands long enough for that person to see that everything is always in a constant state of dying, and everything is going to go away at some point, that you can't stop yourself from slowly dying on this planet, nor can you stop the slow dying of your friends, your family, everyone you've ever met. Everyone is going to die. Everything that you love is going to fall away. It's going to get mold all over it, mildew, and it's going to essentially go back to the earth eventually. Everything goes back to her. And we're just temporary travelers here. And if we can understand that, then suddenly a day that is turning out a little badly isn't a bad day anymore. It's hilarious. It's funny when things happen that used to totally piss you off. Now it's funny, and it's something you laugh about, and nothing ever really gets you down anymore because you realize that no one has control over anything. I mean, not even these elites that we've been talking about. They don't even have control. That's why they're, they do what they do because they want to wrestle that control. But in the end, I don't think that they're ever really going to get it. I think that I think the genie's out of the bottle already. It's regarding the internet and regarding crowdfunding and all these things. And so we're going to wriggle our way free.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, and either way, the ruling cacistocracy won't have control. Either we free ourselves from this system and walk away and they lose control then, or the system comes online and becomes fully autonomic, in which case they lose control as well, because they'll just be another number as far as the system goes. I mean, they may have more credits than everybody at the moment, but that won't matter if the system does what it wants to do. It's not going to matter where they think they sit in the food chain. That's the thing. I mean, they lose either way. So, they've done the wrong thing, and unfortunately they're going to have to suffer for that in the long run. And they will, more than anybody else. I have no doubt about that either. But, I think we will get through it. I mean, it's one big experiment anyway. Even if we don't get through it, well, no stake in the outcome. If the experiment fails, the experiment fails. We did our best to ensure that it didn't. And even if it didn't, I mean, what is failure? I mean, if it's all about collecting data and collecting the human experience, well, we've certainly given it a lot of that. We've certainly had a lot of experience. And I think ultimately that's what it's about. It's about you're here to collect the data that you collect during your life. You're here to have this experience, and it's what you do with these experiences, how you apply yourself to it, how much you are in your heart. There's some suggestion that this is even, where we kind of nurture or grow our souls in this place, grow what we need for the next realm, if you believe in such things. Or perhaps it's just we're here to run an experiment. Sometimes I think we're caught in a time loop, Chris. I really do, and Sheree. Sometimes I do. Sometimes with deja vu, I feel like the day's been reset or something like that.
Well, let me throw a thought out to you as far as that goes.
In the last 15 minutes of the show.
So I get the exact same feeling, like we're reliving days, or like they've reset the timeline to a day that we've already lived. And this whole simulation theory and the idea that we're living in a matrix, et cetera, it makes me wonder if maybe we are the artificial consciousness that is inside of this matrix. And so, for example, they're playing out the Donald Trump timeline right now. What happens if Donald Trump takes presidency? And we're the ones that have to experience that, while our real consciousness, which is out in the real world, is still back in 1990, for example. So we're living the simulation of post 9/11, et cetera, et cetera. What are your thoughts on that idea?
Look, anything's possible, Chris. I mean, you look at the lunar waves and stuff that I've seen. And have you seen any aircraft? You ever seen an aircraft stopped in the sky?
I have. I've never seen it in person, but I've heard reports of it. I've read articles about it.
I saw one that I swear was stopped in the sky over the Gold Coast last year. I swear it was just not moving. I kept trying to tell myself it was, but I swear it wasn't moving, this plane. And then I looked up online on YouTube, and I found a whole bunch of people are seeing these planes that aren't moving.
And birds that don't move, too.
And I'm like, what is this? What's going on? And there was one time, it was either last year or the year before, I looked up at the sky, and I thought I saw a glitch. Just for a split second, I thought I saw a glitch in the sky, or I could see a sheet, like I could see like an overlay of another sky. And it was like a straight line, like a pane of glass, Now, it almost looked like I was seeing into another dimension, and it kind of flickered and twisted and glitched, and it was gone. And I thought, what is this? What is this? What's going on here? What is this place? Are we in some sort of a construct? Imagine if there's another realm above this, and there's like, people in a mainframe running an experiment, and they're trying to figure out how they got in the mainframe or whatever. We keep messing up and creating this computer system. I don't know, maybe there's someone running an experiment trying to figure out how we got here or how to get out, or maybe we are running an experiment to see what happens if we create AI. But I think a lot of it is how to step into our hearts. Even looking at the Garden of Eden and all that, what was that all about? I think it was about just a man and a woman experiencing themselves. If you want to, look at that, the symbolicness of it. Why would you even create a situation like that? If you were stuck in a mainframe, what would be the way out? The way out would be to rediscover your humanity. How would you do that? Put a man and a woman in a garden and see if they can just leave things alone and discover themselves, because that's what it's all about. Don't eat from the apple. You don't need to know. You don't need to know how old the tree is. Don't cut it down and measure the rings, then you won't have the shade of the tree. Why do we need to know all this stuff that we need to know? What for? What do we need to know for? What do we need to know what atoms are made of and all this stuff for, if atoms are even real? That's what they call these particles, if particles are even real. God knows what we get from these people, Chris. Nothing they tell us is real, nothing. So the question is, why do we need to know? How does it help us? Any of this stuff that we search for, why? What for? Why can't we just enjoy this incredible experience that we're in? Well, I guess we can't at the moment because it's not too incredible anymore. Look what we've done to it. But it had potential when we first got here. We just seem to have messed with things terribly, because of this need to know. And this need to know and this greed and want and this thirst for knowledge, this greed and this fear of each other and what we project on each other has led to this creation of this system with all this knowledge that we're going to automate to look after us because we're so scared of each other and so scared someone might steal a couple of cents from us, whoever the elite are or the cacostocracy or whatever you want to call them. They're so penny pinching and worried about all this stuff. It's all created out of fear. The whole thing's created out of fear, projection, a lust for knowledge, a greed for knowledge, and look what we've created. So, what can we expect? Perhaps we should have just, got to know each other and enjoyed the garden. Might have been a better idea.
But let me offer the flip side of the coin here for a moment. What if the experiment is to see how long you can keep a human consciousness trapped and in a slave-like state, and breaking all the barriers of the political deception and the educational deception, the educational system, the monetary system,
The
all of these
religious
things.
deception.
Yeah, all of these things aren't real. The religious thing isn't real. And, whatever your views are on flat earth or not, I think it's a key step, in my opinion. You go to that next level of flat earth and start to question whether the whole earth is real. And then you go to that next step and it's computer simulation theory and we're living in a matrix and so on and so forth. And understanding the atoms and the molecules is really understanding the code. And by going within yourself, then you're starting to unlock more and more of this divine knowledge, which ultimately allows you to break free of this matrix. And the experiment is over, at least for that particular consciousness, when it's actually ascended out of here. So all these steps of realization and the step of knowledge and search for knowledge, what if it's the opposite? And that's the way to freedom. Like, we just all realize all of a sudden, hey, this is a computer simulation. And then all of a sudden there are no more rules and we break all the rules. And then we all wake up from the simulation because the simulation just can't continue to function when there's so many awakened souls inside of it. Your thoughts?
Well, yeah, but that's where belief systems get in the way, such as flat Earth. That's such low-level arguing about the physicality on such an irrelevant issue. It doesn't matter what the playing field is. It's probably a hologram anyway. How can you have these lunar waves and have planes stopped in the sky?
Exactly. But the point is, though,
arguing about the shape of the Earth is like watching paint dry, honestly.
Well, the thing is, though, it's questioning the
argument, and it locks people into a belief system and associates everything with this eternal argument. It's been the most destructive thing that I've seen that happen to the truth movement, the independent media. It's caused so much infighting, so much division. We actually had a wave building 2 or 3 years ago, and then the flat Earth came out. Everyone started getting locked into a belief system. There was so much distrust. Now there's like 2 or 3 camps, like 4 camps. There's the alternate right media, the alt left media, and the globe earthers and the flat earthers. What the hell happened there? It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. And it locks people into this belief system, which is completely and utterly irrelevant. I mean, I don't give a damn what the shape of the playing field is, Chris. I care about freedom. I'll find out that later.
I understand your perspective. I do, completely. For my journey, it was a key and pivotal moment.
What? Whether the Earth is round or flat, the smart tech is still rolling out. And in another 5 years, you won't even be able to discuss whether the Earth is round or flat. You won't have the freedom to be able to find out because you didn't pay attention to the lice that are crawling over your body. That's what the flat Earth movement has done. That's all.
I can't agree with that 100%, but I do. I respect your opinion completely, and don't get me wrong. But
it's a low-level belief system about an irrelevant physicality. It really is. It's so ridiculously mundane and so boring and so irrelevant, it staggers my mind that people are so willing to lock themselves into a belief system and accuse anybody who won't lock themselves into that closed-minded belief system of being a government agent and of having a closed mind. It's freaking unbelievable.
Well, you have to separate the flat earthers from the flat earth theory, in my opinion. Like I said, to me, it was about questioning the very fundamentals of what we've been told. And then that took me to simulation theory after that.
It's about stopping the questioning, Chris, and locking yourself into a belief.
That's not the way it was for me.
Oh, man. The concept, man, it doesn't change one single thing about my life. It doesn't change one single perspective of my physicality, of my relationship to the Creator, of the way out of this matrix, of what this thing may be. It changes absolutely nothing. All it does is lock people into argument while the slavery system is rolled out, and it's done such a perfect job at doing it. I think it is the most effective gatekeeping movement that has ever been introduced to this whole independent media.
It could be, but like I said, my experience is different. I started, instead of looking outwards to the cosmos, I started looking within, because when I started to speculate on whether the cosmos were actually real or not, when I started to speculate on the entire construct of the Earth itself, I never thought I would question that dynamic. I thought that was a given. We live on planet Earth. It's floating around in the cosmos. There's billions and billions of light years out there that we can travel, billions and billions of civilizations out there. And then I started to ask the question, is that really the case? If it's not the case, then what else is there? There's the simulation and there's what's inside. And so it's helped me find the answers from within instead of looking for them from without.
Yeah, it hasn't taught me anything I didn't already know. I've just had to fend off legions of trolls and agents like Agent Dubay.
I know, it's frustrating. The trolls
you know?
are frustrating. I completely understand that. And we went through the same thing as well.
Just close-minded people, Chris. People who I'm locked into a belief system, and if you don't lock yourself into this belief system, you're a government agent and your mind is closed. What the hell is that? What is that mentality?
We only have 90 seconds left, but why
is that though? What is that?
Why is
That's not even logic.
Why
It's
is the
not real.
Earth? Why is the Earth a ball though? Because they told us it is.
I don't know it's a ball. I don't know what it is. I don't
See?
care. I couldn't give a flying rat's rectum what it is. It makes no difference to my path through this life.
You got to pay attention to the construct, though. You know, we've got to understand where we are to understand who we are.
We're in a prison, Chris.
We are,
and
exactly.
And the walls are getting taller and taller because people are arguing about the shape of it. I reckon it's a gatekeeping movement. It's been so effective. It has caused so much division, and I've never seen the system been able to ramp up so effectively and so quickly with such devastating force since this whole flat Earth movement started. I have never seen anything serve the system as well as this movement.
Well, I guess it's all just a matter of perspective.
Well, I travel a lot and I look at the big picture, brother.
Excellent. Where are you heading to next?
I got to go back to Holland to speak in Holland and Denmark, and then I got to go to Hawaii for Cumbo.
Excellent. Give us your websites and YouTube channels, please.
My website is thecrowhouse.com, and my YouTube channel is The Crowhouse. You'll get everything there at thecrowhouse.com. Yeah, sorry about that with the flat Earth, but it's a joke, Chris. I really do. I think there's far more important issues to worry about. But you'll find everything about me on thecrowhouse.com. And keep searching the flat Earth on your smartphone and enjoy the prison system, folks.
I would say question everything, including the construct that you live in. And when you do, you'll find the answers from within. And when you find those answers, then you realize who you are and you can escape this construct, or you can tap into it, change the matrix code, and make it a better world one person at a time. We can't move a mountain, but we can each pick up a stone. And if we each pick up a stone, the entire mountain will move. Kiss the one you love right now. You never know the last time he's going to be. And stay tuned. Brent Thomas is coming up next, right here on TFR.
Love you guys.
Thank you for traveling with us this evening. Meditate on your experience. And remember, reality is merely an illusion. Thus, we wish you pleasant dreams. www.beyondtheveilradio.com